Well, thanks, Ted. And I think it's been a brilliant meeting. And what I really like about this meeting is we're right at the fag end of it now. You are the very best people who were at it, because you're the diehards. You've stayed to the end. No, that's excellent. But you know what? The meeting is still bigger than an LRC fringe meeting of the TUC would have been a couple of years ago. And that's something that tells you something. It's true, Claire, I'm sorry, but it is. It tells you something about the change that's been wrought in the Labour Party, doesn't it? And it is incredible. And just as we've sat and listened to some really informative and inspiring speeches this evening, it's been inspiring to see the change in the Labour Party, to see the enormous surge in our membership and the growth of the party. And Claire's just mentioned Brighton and Hove, and obviously, you know, we grew too quickly, obviously, and that's why we had to be suspended. But as it's been so positive, I thought at the end I should inject a little misery. And I just wanted to point something out about the Labour movement, because it isn't just the Labour Party, is it? And this is a fringe meeting for the TUC, and there are delegates here who are at the TUC, and that Corbyn surge, that is passing the big trade unions by. I mean, in the year since Jeremy was elected leader, we've had a General Secretary election in unison, and I'm not commenting on the result, and I'm certainly not criticising any of the candidates, but I'll make this observation. The turnout in the election was 10%, which is dramatically lower than in any previous unison General Secretary election. The GMB had an election for General Secretary, and most of the members didn't seem to even know it had happened. Their turnout was below 5%. Now, the membership of the trade unions and our density in the workplace is static at the moment. Young members are still largely distanced from the trade unions. A very small proportion of workers under the age of 30 are members of a trade union, and the union movement isn't really reaching the precarious workforce, the fragmented workforce, the Deliveroo drivers and so on. And whilst the trade unions waged a good and effective campaign in some ways against the Trade Union Act, and won some victories, we stopped the attack on check-off, the arrangement whereby in the public sector you can pay your union subs from your salary. And that's a good thing, and we also helped to secure the future funding through the trade union link of the Labour Party, which is an extremely good thing. But the one we lost on, the one the movement lost on, was the new restrictions on industrial action. And I have to say that if we're required to get a 50% turnout in national strike ballots, I'm afraid, comrades, you can write off the prospect of lawful national industrial action, certainly in big industries, areas like local government and health. It's not going to happen, unless and until we can persuade the trade union leaders that we should be prepared to defy the law, and we're some way off from that. So I think there's an interesting question there about what has happened in the Labour Party and what hasn't happened in the trade unions. Because the trade unions are in the doldrums. And the consequence of that, I'm a local government worker, so I'm a member of the largest single bargaining unit in the entire economy. And over the last period, since 2010, the national local government workforce has declined by 20%, and the standard of living of the workers who are still at work has declined by another 20%. The trade unions have not been delivering for their members in the way that we would all think as trade unionists that we should. So, there's a little bit of misery. I think we have to, as socialists in the Labour Party and in the Labour movement, we have to look at that squarely. And I think McDonnell was absolutely right, as he almost always is. We've got to work hard in the remaining days of the leadership election campaign to secure every last vote for Jeremy Corbyn. But then we've got to work just as hard every day after that. And I think one of the things that the LRC needs to be thinking about doing is taking the enthusiasm and the energy and the commitment that we've seen in the support for Jeremy Corbyn in the Labour Party and finding a way of applying it to make our trade unions what we need them to be. Because we can't just do it by rejuvenating the Labour Party. Our movement has to have an industrial as well as a political wing. And right now, we haven't really got that. So, in order that the LRC can do that, I know I've praised you as diehards for staying to the end of the meeting, but there is one downside, and that's that you get to hear me say to you that we really do need you to give us some money as you leave. Because we have no millionaire backers, we have no slush funds, Someone suggested a couple of people should apply for the jobs they're advertising in the Labour Party compliance unit and then tithe their salary over to the LRC. But we thought that probably wouldn't work, so that one's been knocked on the head. But we have no sources of financial support. These meetings don't organise themselves. Well, actually, Claire organises them and tells the rest of us what to do, and we try our best to do it. But we need money to keep going, and therefore, please, comrades, could you put a little bit in on your way out? And thank you very, very much for your attention.